to take it easy for a little bit. He ended up purchasing a little bit, ended up purchasing a small multiplex property in Toronto, which allowed him to really not have to work necessarily to cover his basic needs, which allowed him to really dive into this world of cryptocurrencies. And he has become absolutely a huge fan, very enthusiastic about it, and an active investor. And as Jerry will himself tell you, he's not a financial advisor. He doesn't claim to be one. He is simply doing me a favor today, joining us on the call to share his insights with us. And the reason I think this topic is particularly important today, more than ever, is because, as we've all seen, there is an increasing push by the government, by the regulators, to move us into a cashless society. And we know that when the whole COVID situation started, in the first ginormous stimulus bills that was passed by the US government, they were very sneakily going to introduce a digital dollar. Now, that didn't go through. However, many of us know that that's the direction the world is going in. And the concern those of us, especially those of us who are freedom-minded, have is that if the central banks are going to be issuing these digital currencies, the concern many of us have is that there may be some strings attached. Those of us who have done our research have some concerns about the agenda that's being pushed and where that leads to. And the opportunity I see here by educating ourselves about the world of cryptocurrencies is that we could potentially give ourselves access to other mediums of exchange that are not controlled by the central banks, okay? And so in other words, putting ourselves back into the driver's seat, if we ever were, but really empowering ourselves when it comes to the medium of exchange that we use. And to the extent that these other cryptocurrencies become widely accepted as a form of exchange, as a medium of exchange, again, we have the potential to live in a freer society, potentially, one where we, the people, are in charge. And I think that's one of the reasons Jerry is so passionate about this whole world. And without further ado, Jerry has been nice enough to prepare a bunch of slides for us and some information to introduce us to this world of cryptocurrencies. So should I give you back control right now, Jerry?
Well, first of all, thanks, Letitia.
My pleasure.
With that, you mean as far as taking the?
So you can share the slides.
Now I become host is what I do?
Yes, I think I need to allow you to do that. Now, everyone watching on Facebook, I need to make Jerry host in order for him to share the slides. If somehow the live stream gets cut off, you're welcome to join us on the Zoom call by clicking the invitation link that I posted in my earlier post. If you're not able to do that for whatever reason, I will be uploading a recording of this as soon as it's available, okay? So just in case we get cut off, hopefully it doesn't happen, but okay, there you are. Do you want to change the host? Yes. Okay, no, looks like we're still live on Facebook, Jerry.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
All right. So thank you, Letitia.
My pleasure.
What you said about central bank digital currencies and the potential of something like that happening. Digital currencies will be launched. They are being developed now by central banks, by entities, by corporations, there's a lot of there's many forms of digital value now that didn't exist before. We used to have digital information, but because of some of the things I'm going to talk about today, we have digital value as well, right? Now, some of that might be in the form of a central bank digital dollar, where if you look at dollars in your bank account now, those aren't digital dollars. Those are dollars that are represented on the bank's ledger. They may not have them in the bank through their type of banking they do, but those are dollars that I've deposited into the bank, real money, not digital money. And those dollars show up on my computer, but that doesn't mean they're digital. The thing the thing with blockchain, with the development of Bitcoin, it means that there is digital value now, not just digital information. So that is the way we're moving, because money transfers quicker that way, and it transfers more efficiently. You can put notations with it, whatnot, a lot less expensively. So we are moving that way. And if a country develops a central bank digital currency, in a lot of ways, right now, Canada has a Canadian central bank. There's a European central bank and Central Bank of England. All these central banks create fiat money, and fiat means by decree. They snap their fingers, they create the money.
Literally, yep.
So,
Crazy.
were money to be created digitally, I suppose it could be done the same way, but the idea would be they take the balance of the money that they have in their current supply and make some kind of a digital creation of it or something. But maybe, for instance, you and I might have to buy the central bank currency with, maybe if we end up trading in Bitcoin or we end up trading in some other digital kind of currency to pay our taxes, maybe we have to buy the Canadian central bank digital currency. Like if we have $1,000 in taxes to pay, maybe we buy that currency and send it into the government.
Right.
You know, the government would certainly trade with that currency, and it would be instant and it would be less expensive, that kind of thing.
Okay. Let's not get, yeah. Sorry, I know we're going into some potential scenarios. I know, I know, Jerry, I know you can talk about, like, there's so much cool stuff to talk about in this world, in this realm. But I know you have some
attached, right?
Like, yeah.
And when you talk about strings attached to the digital currency, the whole thing that I'm talking about today is the digital currency. And because it is currency that we're talking about, and it's a brand new kind of currency, I just wanted to do, you know, a regular perspective of the money supply as the way I see it right now. You know? And hint, hint, it scares the heck out of me. I want to go over a couple of things where is crypto any different than the kind of money that we have right now?
Jerry, can you up your volume a little bit? Your the sound quality doesn't come very clear.
On my microphone, you mean?
Yeah, yeah.
That might be a little bit of.
Jerry's a Mac user.
Oh, so you see all this too?
No, I see all the slides. I don't see your sound controls. You should. I'm sure you know what that is. Oh, okay. Oh, geez. Thanks for your patience, guys.
The input.
I mean, if it's complicated, maybe just get a little bit closer to the screen so we can.
Is this louder?
Oh yeah, much louder. Yeah, much better. Yeah.
Took a while to get there, but okay. So there you are. So yeah, I took Letitia's request as a little bit of an exercise to put a little bit of a flow together to try to make crypto, Bitcoin, blockchain make a little bit of sense. So I start with money, where I think we're at, is how different crypto may be. Can it fix things? What is it? Where's crypto headed? Ultimately, some places we can buy it and what we can expect when we do, right? And again, like Letitia said, not a financial advisor. I'm just a neighbor rambling over the fence about crypto.
He's being modest, but okay.
My perspective here, and I just want to move these spaces, so I'm going to have to do this for a second. My perspective here, looking at money is something that happened in September that just totally rocked me. In fact, I went to the bank when it happened, and I took out $1,500 cash just in case everything went down, right? But it hardly made the news.
Wow.
There is an overnight banking system called the Repo Markets that the banks lend between banks,
Mm-hmm.
just to cover their balances so that everybody balances out at the end of the day. I need to borrow $10 million from you. Okay, fine. There came a day, September 17th, when the banks stopped trusting each other or didn't have the money to lend, because that 2.5% rate to lend shot up to 10%. And it became something like the financial crisis again, except nobody went to the Senate to beg for a whole bunch of money. They just printed $75 billion and pumped it into the market, calmed everything down. The next day, nobody wanted to lend to each other again. The rates went up again. So they printed another like $50 billion or something like that. So those 2 consecutive days were the largest injection of money into the money supply since the big financial crisis. And because of COVID.
So this happened even before COVID, Jerry.
Right, this happened in September, yeah. So what else was going on? I forget what else was going on in September, but it barely made the news, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, I say pre-COVID. So in this repo market, up until January, they finally admitted $6 trillion went into the market. And then the first relief package was $2.5 trillion. You know, and I asked myself, as a normal guy, we're talking about diluting, diluting money. How can it take its value? But, you know, I just think to myself, it took hundreds of years for the word million to kind of enter the lexicon of speech, right? Like people in the 30s didn't talk about millions of dollars. We didn't start talking about millions until the 70s, when they had this TV show, The $6 Million Man. That was a lot of money back then, right? Now we've got 5 seasons of Showtime where there's a TV show on called Billions now, right? So we took from the beginning of time until the $6 Million Man launched in the 70s before we really started talking about millions. Then 30 or 40 years later, we're talking about billions. In this budget, in this COVID crisis, we're starting to talk about trillions now.
Right.
Now, let's put a perspective on it. So just so that we know how diluted this is, we shouldn't be able to let them say trillions and billions and all this money without questioning them. So I want to do a little illustration where we look at 1 million seconds. I don't know if you've done the calculation or you've seen this exercise.
No, I haven't, Jerry. This is cool.
Just to imagine 1 million, right? We can talk about dollars, but let's use seconds, because seconds are absolutely insignificant, right? When we start getting this into dollars later is when it gets scary. But we look at 1 million seconds, 11.5 days. Off the top of your head, maybe you're already starting to think, hey, wonder what 1 billion is.
Sure.
Do you even have any idea? Because, I think I have to exit my screen in order to do my little funky bit here.
Oh, well, I think it's going to, I think it's like orders. Wow. That is insane. Wow. I would have never, wow. That is because we're talking like orders of magnitude.
Yeah.
Wow. That, wow.
31,000 years. So this little thing I say in the bottom is like typically the mainstream narrative for men on the planet is since the last ice age, 12,000 years ago, right? And then we're talking about 1 trillion in seconds is almost 3 times longer than the last ice age, 12,000 years ago. When they talk, so it's almost man's entire history is tripled by talking about 1 trillion seconds. Now imagine, seconds, I use that because it's insignificant. Yeah. Think about them putting dollars, because even dollars to me are significant, right? When you put that last slide prior to this, Federal Reserve admits it pumped more than $6 trillion to Wall Street in the recent 6-week period. 6 trillion, right? That's 180 million years in seconds, right? So I say that to talk about the urgency of what's happening to the money supply, right?
Yeah.
Now, if who knows, like all bets are off because it's artificial and who knows what's pumping it up. But if everything goes ahead, then maybe with the highest stock market, the highest everything, who knows what's gonna, because it's all fake. But it also could someday just get so diluted that we're living in the Great Depression. And if you're not holding something that
someday soon, that's my concern too, because we're essentially all this money printing is not backed by value. I mean, you're printing paper money, but what value has actually been created? Businesses are being shut down. So many industries are suffering. Small, medium-sized businesses, the travel industry, the aviation industry, you name it. Like so many businesses are operating way below capacity. And yet all this money printing is going on. So I've as I like to share, I've grown up in a communist country, and in the post-communist years, I've lived through hyperinflation. We had $1 million bills being printed, and what ended up happening was that post-communist Romania, for about, I would say, at least a year, maybe more, the local currency became so devalued that it was no longer accepted as a medium of exchange. We had to use US dollars for a short while there. Right. Crazy, right? So I've lived through that. And people that think, this stimulus packages, well, I'm getting free money from the government, or to sort of make people feel better about what's actually happening to the economy. That's very scary to me, because how much is your $2,000 gonna get you a year from now, even with the amount of money that's just coming? You get it. You understand, Jerry, what I'm saying.
You want something that will hold its value. People talk about gold as being a store of value. A store of value means purchasing power, and that's where I'm heading right now.
Okay.
The way money's going, by being diluted, it loses its purchasing power. Now, I put this slide up to illustrate that I don't think prices go up. It's a purchasing power goes down, right? Our currency gets diluted.
How old is this slide? How old do you think that picture is?
This picture is a couple of decades ago.
Not even that old.
Wow. Well, this is like in the late 70s, early 80s, right?
Looking at the guy's glasses, I would say so.
Yeah, but the thing is, the highest item is 70 cents.
Yeah, that's crazy.
The whole restaurant. And not to mention, just the fact that there's only eight or 9 or 10 items and then some drinks, it's just so calming to me. There's not all these screens and menus and all kinds of stuff. But this isn't so much to illustrate that it's prices going up as our purchasing, like this is so far away from reality. We just cannot, the money's just having less and less value.
Yeah.
So
wow.
Here's an illustration of why crypto, when we can just put our money in the bank, right? In 1998, we could take $20 and fill up a shopping cart. Wow. So if we put that $20 in the bank in 1998, took it out in 2005, we might expect to get the same amount of groceries, but there's no way, because that $20 has lost a good deal of its power to purchase groceries. Put it back in the bank, take it out in 2012, and look at what we're buying.
Yeah.
Right?
Inflation is a big concern.
Inflation is a big concern, and inflation happens when the currency gets diluted, right?
Yep.
And if there's some urgency to something, then there's some value to it. And that's the inflation you just said. Inflation, like since we took the gold and silver away from the currency, and inflation robs us. It's just a function of the way the money's designed.
Not to our advantage.
No.
Of course. Yeah, it's essentially an impoverishment of the population. That's what, the more you print money, the less, because our people's wages are not going to go up at the rate that this money is being printed. Yeah. Like that's another thought that just came to mind. So $40,000, $50,000, even $100,000 a year salary, what is that going to buy when the actual value of the money it will have been diluted so greatly? It is scary. Right. So you have another slide here. Please explain what this is.
We've heard of inflation, and we almost take it for granted that that's the way money is supposed to be. Well, that's inflation. You know? Just say it as an off-the-cuff remark. But do we even, now certainly economists know, but we don't hear the word deflation, right?
Sometimes we do. I mean, we were in some very low interest rate environment in recent years, and maybe it's a separate conversation, but there were some people that were like, well, we're going to go into a negative interest rate environment. I don't want to put you on the spot regarding this topic, but this was prior to COVID. Right now, we all know what's happening. The money supply is being increased. That's inevitably going to lead to a decrease in the value of the currency.
Right. It's already in negative interest rates in different parts of the world.
Right. Yeah. That's
inflation, where the currency gains in value rather than loses in value, right? Okay. Inflation is going down, and deflation is when the power is increasing. So you look at the same chart before in 2011, the price of one Bitcoin. If you look to the left there, in 2011, Bitcoin high that year was $15.40.
Wow.
2013, the high in that year was $946. In 2014, went down $100. It was $853. And then just, for full disclosure, in 2015, it cut that in half, and it was down to $434. But the thing is, it's still one hell of a long way from where it started in 2011 at $15, right?
In recent days, like, it's gone up through the roof, like way higher than that.
Well, it's over $9,000 now. So the point is, to the last chart, you put your $20 in the bank for 10 years, or you put a Bitcoin in the bank for 10 years. And I have a slide. Are
you going to explain why that happens, Jerry? I'm just wondering. Okay. Okay.
So Bitcoin and digital assets, we're here to talk about finances and where Bitcoin and digital assets fits into the scheme of things. And it's really the newest, latest digital asset to be created, and it isn't, I don't know if someone sets out to think we're going to create a new digital asset, or a new asset class, but that's what happened.
Yeah.
We have precious metals, whether it's a paper derivative or we're stacking. We've got ownerships on stocks, fixed income, real estate, fine art. There's stock options, derivatives, that kind of thing. Digital assets is a true form of value that is distinct from all these other things. We talk about, stocks and equities and even fiat money, cash equivalents. Those things are completely different from digital assets. They exist completely on their own, and they're a unique entity, right? They don't, it isn't, and I have this roadblock where a lot of people think they already use digital money because
right. Yeah.
but it's just simply not the case. Right?
Okay.
Just because you're using your phone, what you're doing is you're using the bank's record-keeping system in order to transfer money through your phone. But you're still either going through a bank, you're going through a financial institution like PayPal, or you're preloading a debit, some kind of dynamic where there's a debit card involved or something, like a Starbucks situation.
Mm-hmm.
But what you're not doing is sending true digital value over your phone. Right? What you're doing is sending commands for your bank or your financial institution to do some behind the scenes record keeping.
Got it. Okay. So that's an interesting distinction.
So let's look at what a Bitcoin is, first of all, right?
That looks very confusing. Okay, go ahead.
It looks confusing because if it was $1, there would only be 2 decimal points, right? Because you can go to 99 cents.
Right. Okay.
Look at the very bottom, you have 1 point and then 8 zeros. Are you with me there?
Yeah.
Each of those decimal points, if I'm talking about fiat money, those decimal points are called a cent.
Yes.
But because Bitcoin was created by this entity known as Satoshi Nakamoto, those cents are all called Satoshis,
Oh, that's interesting.
right? And if
Okay.
you're, or you could call it a sat, right? Like 100 sats or 10 sats.
Okay. Sats. Okay.
So if you can see from the first, so 1 Satoshi, 0.000000001 Bitcoin is like a 10,000th of a dollar, right?
Okay. Wow. So you could basically be trading in such small denominations of one coin, basically.
That's a very perceptive comment.
Okay.
To apply it to Bitcoin, we'll say yes for now. There's a lot of reasons why Bitcoin isn't the right coin to do a micro payment.
Okay.
The idea is called, you know, but that's because of the network that it's on, right?
Okay.
There are other coins on faster blockchains. It takes the Bitcoin blockchain, and we'll get to this in a second, but it takes 10 minutes. It takes 10 minutes to create a block.
Okay.
There are some blockchains where it takes 3 seconds or 5 seconds to create a block, right? So that's a better blockchain to be sending money and sending micropayments, right?
Very interesting. Okay.
Some blockchains cost more money to send than other blockchains, right? So there's that to talk about as well. But the idea of all these decimal points and to be able to have a thousandth of a thousandth of a penny is all about micropayments, and that's something that you know, we can talk about what the benefit of this kind of money is. Say, rather than paying your monthly internet bill, you pay by the microsecond, and you pay as you're watching it through these types of payments, right?
Wow.
That could happen. Say, rather than click a button and give somebody a like, you could send them half a penny, so that if they get 50,000 likes on their video, then they've created some value through their work. And there are social websites that I make a quick reference to later.
Yeah, we could. Yeah.
That's how the whole dynamic of the website is set up. You're valued for your contribution.
Yeah.
Your information isn't sold like it is in Facebook and some other.
Yeah, and I think this is another area of great interest to those of us who believe in freedom of speech, and we all know what's been happening with the censorship and you know, YouTube pulling, literally deleting entire channels that had millions or hundreds of thousands of viewers, entire channels being deleted. It's very disturbing. So there are alternative platforms, and I don't know, you mentioned, I mean, LBRY, I know, is one of them. They are a video hosting platform that is based on blockchain technology, which you're going to explain to us. But essentially, by posting videos there, you can actually earn some amount of cryptocurrency. The more views you have, the more crypto you earn, and they have their own coin that they created. And I also became aware of an alternative to Twitter called Twitch, and that apparently works the same way. Like, you actually apparently have to pay to post. I'll find out, but very, very interesting that that these possibilities exist now, and it's very seamless, right? It doesn't take any effort on your part.
No.
Okay, as a user.
You talk about a freedom-minded audience that you have.
I would say so.
Yeah, and you know, you look at something like even Patreon, you know, that kick people off their site.
I know.
So they're not allowed to earn a living because Patreon doesn't agree with what they say or something like
Yeah,
that.
I know. Patreon
They don't have to go very far either. But
some other.
if creators could be paid directly, right? Like what if even every time I listen to a song on Spotify, the artist, well, right now the artist gets money, but what if Spotify wasn't the middle person, right? What if I could send value directly to the artist, which can't really happen now. You still have to go through a bank. I know YouTube takes a great percentage of what people do through chats on YouTube. Patreon takes their big cut off the top too.
Really?
Where with micropayments, the payment just goes through. I click and it goes through. But to get back to this slide.
Yes, I know. I'm sorry I sidetracked you there. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll speed up. But this is, it talks about 100 billion Satoshi. People don't think of a Bitcoin that way, but they do think of a Bitcoin with all those zeros on the end, because you can see if you read from the right, see where it says 1,000 Satoshis?
Yeah.
You can, the one below that, 10,000 Satoshis, and you can see where we're still under $1, right? So,
sorry, under 1 Bitcoin, you mean? That's what you meant, right? Under 1 Bitcoin?
I'm looking at the 10,000 Satoshi row.
Yes. Yeah. We're under 1 Bitcoin because
if you look to the right of that, what does it say?
Oh, I see. To the very right. Yes, I see. Now, is this based on today's numbers or?
Well, at the very bottom, 1 Bitcoin.
Yeah, I got it.
Is $9,207.
I saw that. Okay.
That was earlier today, right? So if 1 Bitcoin is $9,200, 10,000 Satoshis still is under $1.
I saw that.
Right?
Because we're talking like orders of magnitude. Yeah.
It's there. Yeah, like every one is a 10, right? So the next one, 100,000 Satoshis, you're still only $9, right?
Okay.
So when you get to 0.01 or 1 million Satoshis, and then even more than that, 0.1, 10 million Satoshis, then you're still under $1,000, right? But that's actually Bitcoin price. Back when Bitcoin was $5, these things would have been negligible, right?
Sure. Yeah.
But this begs the question that I have in my subheading here. At what price does being divisible by 100 million make sense? Right?
I don't even know. Okay, maybe you can go deeper into that. Like what does that question even mean?
What it means is somebody designed a Bitcoin to be divisible by 100 million.
Wow, I see what you mean. Yeah.
So ultimately, in their mind, you'd think 100, 10, maybe even 1 Satoshi would ultimately someday be of value, or why make so many decimal places?
Interesting.
Right?
Yeah, very interesting.
So it's been predicted that right now Bitcoin is $9,200. Before 2024, there's a lot of people talking about Bitcoin making $1 million.
Wow.
So there's that, right? I want to do this before the next slide.
Sure.
This is a graph that basically shows the history of Bitcoin. And when I say Bitcoin, let it just be the Kleenex of crypto, right? There are thousands of cryptos. They have different uses, whatnot. Bitcoin's the hero. So I'm just going to talk Bitcoin to kind of mean crypto in a lot of cases, but to be general. You can see 2009 is when Bitcoin started, right under the logo at the top. It says the 3rd of January, 2009, the first block was created, right?
Right under the logo. Yeah, okay, yeah. Genesis.
Like the first or the 3rd of January, I don't know what that date is, 3rd of March, 1st of March or 3rd of January.
Okay.
But this is a price history of all of Bitcoin. So for the first 4 years, there was 50 new Bitcoin created every 10 minutes, right? So every 10 minutes is how long the Bitcoin block time takes, right? And
So are you going to get into that a little further? Because people may not understand, what do you mean Bitcoin gets created? How does it get created? And we also heard the term Bitcoin miners. What does that even mean? You know, for a general audience who is kind of new to this concept and wants to understand.
Bitcoin is created through the completion of a mathematical formula that is a last check on a transaction, right? So if there's a formula that's performed on a transaction to approve it and validate it, by doing that formula, the reward is Bitcoin.
Okay.
And the formula spits out the Bitcoin and you get 10 new Bitcoins.
And those formulas, were they designed in the original system? Like when Bitcoin was invented, whoever the inventor was, and we don't know. Are you going to talk about the Bitcoin white paper? Are you still going to talk about that? Oh, there you are. Okay. So those mathematical calculations that you mentioned, were they sort of discussed in this paper, in this original Bitcoin creation paper, or was that something?
Well, we can look at things broadly, or we can get very specific about the math, but there are algorithms that I certainly don't. I'm not a programmer, and I don't do the algorithms, but suffice to say that it might be easier to go over the blockchain. All right, do share.
You'll have to do a new share, Jerry, and select whichever screen you want to share, whichever open window. Okay. Oh, okay, yeah, awesome. Okay.
So this is the video that explains maybe what the blockchain is. If I use the word block every so many minutes.
Yeah, people are like, what are you talking about? Okay.
Maybe I got a little ahead of myself.
No, please.
I'll stop her.
Hi everyone, my name is Meg Alderman. I'm a senior consultant with Deloitte Switzerland. Today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about blockchain. Now, this might not be a new topic for all of you, but hopefully you can take something away from this video. The blockchain is an immutable digital ledger that can be used not just for financial transactions, but virtually everything that we do. Some examples would be storage of our digital identities to farm-to-fork traceability for the groceries we purchase on a weekly basis. Some key characteristics of blockchain is it's near real time, it is peer-to-peer, meaning you don't need a trusted third party or middleman, it is distributed, so proof of the transaction is in more than one place, and it is mutable. So once the file is created, it cannot be edited. This then increases trust and reduces risk and fraud for transactions that use blockchain. So now that you know that blockchain technology is decentralized, distributed, immutable, real-time, and secure, I'm going to get.
Okay, so that's the main part of her story. Blockchain is real-time, immutable, it can't be changed, it's secure. If we take anything away, it's that the blockchain, the way that things are recorded, is more important than the Bitcoin itself.
Okay.
That's where the real advancement is. And the fact that, like she said, it's a decentralized ledger of account that updates itself so that someone in Poland and someone in Canada and someone in Mexico, as they access it, are seeing the same information, that there's not different ledgers everywhere.
Very interesting.
Part of the functionality of joining the blocks, and the blocks are joined by people with.
Give a simple example of blockchain technology.
These blocks are joined by big computers that solve the math that joins them, right?
Okay.
And when they're joined, they're validated and they're broadcast to the network. And as soon as that's validated, it looks for the longest chain of blocks that are out there. And then that validation then becomes the new longest chain of blocks, right?
Okay, okay.
Then the next person to validate has to connect this block to the next block. Then that becomes the longest blockchain. So that's why, or that's how anyone anywhere in the world, anyone anywhere in the world connects to the same blockchain. And
Okay, very interesting. But in saying that though, whatever portion of the transaction gets recorded, the trading party's privacy is maintained, right? It's done on an anonymous basis. It's not like, oh, now that it's out there in the open, everybody's going to see your transaction. That's not the case, right?
definitely not the case.
Okay. So it's more like the validation of a transaction that is maintained. And so in other words, once the transaction happens, could you say that, I don't really know, like there's no reversing it, or I'm just trying to wrap my head around this. And I also don't know how far we want to go into the technical details of the blockchain. I know you have another, so you have another little video here?
Yes, there's another video here, but there's something, and I'm not sure if I put this in the presentation or not, but what Satoshi Nakamoto solved in designing the blockchain and designing Bitcoin was he made digital things scarce. You know, in our understanding of the digital realm, we select something, we copy it, we cut it, and we paste it somewhere else.
Yep.
So to your point of being able to validate a transaction or to be able to work within a certain network like this, the very essence of Bitcoin is that it was able to create something digitally that cannot be copied, right? So for the first time, and I think it even uses the expression in the white paper, the expression digital scarcity. So Bitcoin has created something that is digital and yet scarce at the same time that can't be copied. And it's because of that I think is one of the things that makes it so safe. Really. See if this helps a little bit with
exchange all kinds of value in society. And I believe we are now entering a further and radical evolution of how we interact and trade. Because for the first time, we can lower uncertainty not just with political and economic institutions like our banks, our corporations, our governments, but we can do it with technology alone. So what is the blockchain? Blockchain technology is a decentralized database that stores a registry of assets and transactions across a peer-to-peer network. It's basically a public registry of who owns what and who transacts what. The transactions are secured through cryptography, and over time, that transaction history gets locked in blocks of data that are then cryptographically linked together and secured. This creates an immutable, unforgeable record of all of the transactions across this network. This record is replicated on every computer that uses the network. It's not an app, it's not a company. I think it's closest in description to something like Wikipedia.
Now, the thing that I don't like about her comparison there is that
Wikipedia.
Well, people often go in and they edit Wikipedia and change it. Right?
When there's
blockchain is that's exactly what you can't do. Right?
That's okay. Good point. Yeah.
But her description.
Yeah.
But her description of it, you know, is certainly there. So when I go back to this history of Bitcoin here, and we have an understanding that the mechanism of Bitcoin is to make packets of information that get connected to each other. And those packets are called blocks. One block is created. when it's finished or filled up, a miner sees that block on the network, takes it, does the necessary mathematics to link it to the next block. And then when that happens, it gets broadcast to the network. And like she said, everybody's machine all around the world gets the new block put on their machine. And then the next block is written, right? And then somewhere else, there's a miner doing math to connect that block. And that happens every 10 minutes. Right?
Okay, I just want to say, one thing that comes to mind, with the fact that you're even explaining to me how the whole system works and that this is out there in the public domain. Contrast that with how the rest of our currencies that we are currently accepting as currencies have been created, not out in the open, right? We simply accept it because it is what it is, and this is the accepted medium of exchange. There were some people that were in charge of creating these currencies behind the scenes. This just came to mind, whereas what we're dealing with here is a lot more of a democratic system. Everybody has access to this white paper, and people with the technical know-how can jump on board, can become is a Bitcoin miner also a creator of Bitcoin? Am I getting that?
Bitcoin is created through their efforts.
Sorry, say that again. Your sound didn't come through very well.
Bitcoin is created through the miners' work.
Okay.
So if you look at this chart, the top row, 50 new Bitcoin created every 10 minutes. The miner is doing the work at the end of every block, right?
Okay.
So every 10 minutes, there's a miner that's involved who has solved the mathematics of that block, and then they've moved on, right?
Okay.
So back in 2009, that was pretty simple math. You could be on your home computer,
right,
and your home computer could calculate that math. And every 10 minutes, you'd get 50 Bitcoin, right? So for 4 years, that created 10.5 billion Bitcoin. You can see the column under, or the row under that.
Mm-hmm.
So the first 4 years, 10.5 million Bitcoin were created. The next 4 years after the halving, and the halving is simply that for every math algorithm that the miner solves in order to link the two blocks, now they get half as much as they used to get.
Now, this is something that's been designed in the system, correct? This so-called Bitcoin halving.
It's been designed in the system to create, I guess, more scarcity within the actual currency itself. There's a really interesting chart after this, but so every 10 minutes, only 25 Bitcoin were being created. But if you look down below in this blue band, the price of Bitcoin has gone up substantially, where in the pink first 4 years, Bitcoin looks like it might have got up to 60 or 70 bucks. I don't have maybe 50 bucks, 40 or 50 bucks. Okay. But next year, the high in the blue is around $1,000, right? So if you're getting 25 Bitcoin, maybe so, right? So then in the green, we had a high of $20,000, but every 10 minutes, 12 new Bitcoin were being created. So back when Bitcoin was a high of $20,000, those still 12.5 Bitcoin were still being created every 10 minutes.
Okay.
So the miner, and by the way, the math is a lot harder to solve now.
Okay.
So in the future, after the next halving, every 10 minutes, they'll only get 6.25 Bitcoin as their reward for doing the math. But if you look at where that blue band is, and you go back to the left, Bitcoin's reading $100,000, right? So if you're only earning 6 at $100,000, it's still even better than 12 at 20,000, right?
Okay. I just want to stay aware of time because we're technically, 10 minutes away from 5 p.m. And I know today's webinar was meant to be an introduction, but I know there were a couple of other things you wanted to cover. So we can probably go a few minutes past 5, Jerry, but I want to stay within a certain time frame.
Yeah, I can do pretty quick through the rest, I think.
Okay.
Just back to what is in this picture on the lower left. That's what a bank of computers look like in a mining farm. So that's the number of computers it takes to solve the math that links the blocks together, right? So if somebody says, well, you know, they just make Bitcoin out of thin air, it's been estimated it costs about $1,200 to create a Bitcoin. Through
Okay.
the electricity that you need to spend, through the hardware you need to buy, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
You know, so it's not completely out of thin air. And I always thought this was interesting too, just the name Satoshi Nakamoto, and you look at all these logos, Samsung and Toshiba, and like, you know, you can see where they got the name from.
So nobody really, I mean, people are just guessing as to how they came up with the name. Okay, that's funny.
It's an unknown entity, and to your point, it really is an asset class that wasn't distributed by the government. It wasn't land that, you know, the ruling class decided to parcel out and sell, right? This is an asset class created by people, and it's kind of worked from the ground up.
Okay, I mean, I have sorry for interrupting. I mean, I have so many questions, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. But now the fact that Bitcoin creation is now in the domain of these big, I guess they're called Bitcoin farms, doesn't that once again remove some of the control from ordinary citizens? So most, you know, ordinary citizens are not really in a position to create Bitcoin anymore. Like, you really need higher and higher resources. It's just a little bit of a concern to me that now isn't that a removal of control once again from the general public, and it's sort of like it is a centralization of power. It's not in the hands of the central banks, but it's now in the hands of the miners, you know.
Again, that's a pretty perceptive observation, and you know, within the digital asset world, there are Bitcoin maxis and there are altcoin. You know, there are thousands of cryptocurrencies. Because Bitcoin is the boss, Bitcoin is called Bitcoin. Everything else is called an altcoin, right?
Oh, okay. Thanks for that. Okay.
There are people who are Bitcoin maxis and say Bitcoin is going to be the world's currency. That's all there is to it. There can only be one. Then there are other people that say, but wait a minute, China's really got a massive hold on Bitcoin. Is that right? And you know, maybe it is, maybe it's not. I know that there are massive things going on in Texas right now with respect to building Bitcoin mining farms.
Okay.
You know, and it really boils down to the price of electricity. And wherever you can get cheap electricity and a high Bitcoin price, you know, if Bitcoin goes to $50,000, people will be falling all over themselves to buy mining gear to try to mine it. Right?
Makes sense.
Yeah, because they're going to get 10 Bitcoin or whatever whatever the reward is for the Bitcoin.
Sure.
So, sure, there's a break even, there's a cost of goods and cost of everything involved. Yeah. With the price going up, that's part of how the dynamic is designed. You know,
yeah.
There's only ever going to be 21 million Bitcoin. It was designed to have a cap. You know, it can't just be printed as a whim. It's printed over time. So, and then over time as well.
Not printed, but rather created, right?
Well, yeah, it's created over time.
So how many, do we know how many Bitcoin are in circulation right now? If the maximum amount is 21 million, did you say 21 million?
Yeah, I'm just trying to, I have a slide for that.
I know, I'm sorry, you have so much good stuff.
Right here. Look at the bottom. It says, if everything goes perfectly, the last Bitcoin will be mined in 2140. Okay. That's a long time from now.
Oh, wow, okay.
Where we're at right now in 2020, 87% of all Bitcoins are in circulation.
Oh, wow.
Okay? And because of the halving, and when you have things, it really is a remarkable dynamic that a lot of people don't understand. Like if you're going to start with a grain of sand and fill your swimming pool, by doubling it every time, it goes from not seeing any sand to being filled in like 2 steps, right? So doubling and halving makes a big difference. So look, even by 2036, 99% of all Bitcoin will be in circulation. Another 12 years after that, for 0.9% of the Bitcoin to be done, that last 0.1% of the Bitcoin,
that is crazy,
almost takes another 100 years to dish out, right?
Okay, very interesting.
But think about that. If what I said before, people are predicting $1 million Bitcoin by 2024, by 2036 and 2048, are we looking at $10 million Bitcoin? $50 million Bitcoin?
Yeah, and the interesting thing is we're still comparing it to the currencies
Right.
that we're used, that we understand. I mean, we're now talking about a world where potentially first of all, the fiat currencies are presumably going to be gone. We are maybe going to be in a world, well, very likely going to be in the world of central bank issued cryptocurrencies, we're literally going to be in a cryptocurrency world. And I don't even know where I was going with this. It's just, we have to have some, I guess, measure, something to compare Bitcoin to as a measure of value. And so I think it makes sense we're comparing it to our current currencies.
I'm kind of just comparing it to the current currency so that we can have a visual of the purchasing power of where it will be at then.
Yeah.
But obviously, it will still be as scarce, and it will still be as, if not compared to, say right now, if the US dollar goes digital and there's a central bank digital currency of the US dollar, and there are right now, there are some USDC dollars that are out there. Bitcoin would be compared to that, or it would be compared to another crypto, or it would be compared to something. Gold, if it was the only thing on earth, it would be hard to value too. It always has to value against something. So
yes, yeah.
But it's a matter of purchasing power.
Yes.
This is something I just want to show people when it comes to urgency, right? Everybody that's an investor will have seen this chart on the left. It's the typical market cycle chart, right? But it goes through the psychology. If we pass the psychology and just look at what the chart looks like,
Wow.
the psychology, we know all about that kind of stuff, but compare that chart of a market cycle, the beginning, the blow off top, the reversal, the capitulation, all that kind of stuff. You compare that to this is the Bitcoin chart from like 2015 there beside it.
Mm-hmm.
We pretty much finished a major Bitcoin cycle and are looking at starting the next one, right?
Got it. Okay.
With a lot of the alts as well. We're at a point right now in market cycles where we're at the very end of the bear market. We may have seen the bottom already. People are still talking about one more quick capitulation up and down. Who knows, right?
Okay.
It's been a bear market for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of days, and everybody's going crazy. But when it comes to a market cycle, this just basically is a good illustration of Bitcoin kind of having that market cycle completion.
Okay.
I've talked about this in explaining what Bitcoin is, that in an email, I can send across the world a movie of a $5 bill, a high-res image of a $5 bill, a graphic so that I can print a poster of a $5 bill, an audio of a $5 bill description, but I can't send somebody $5. And that's what Bitcoin fixes. If I have my friend's Bitcoin wallet address, I can send them 0.00054,306, and in today's money, that's about $4.99.
Okay.
And I'm using basically American dollars for a lot of this. So sorry, it's not very Canadian of me, but
That's
all
okay.
of my Bitcoin crypto thinking is in American money. So,
Okay, no worries.
okay. So, and then when I send that to him, he literally has in his wallet $5. He doesn't have to go to his bank and go into his bank account. It's in his wallet, in his phone.
Yeah.
He has
Yeah.
that.
I would imagine that also gets rid of, by getting rid of the middleman, the cost of transaction you think is reduced as well.
There have been transactions of $50 million, and I should have grabbed that headline where they cost just a matter of pennies to send. Right?
Oh, wow.
And that's what makes making micropayments so efficient too, right?
Wow.
And I've got a couple slides just to say, look, things
Sure.
are going on out here. Like Bitcoin and crypto is a thing. People talk about it almost not having legitimacy, or is it real? Does it have value? When people talk about it being the most significant invention since electricity, we have to pay attention, right? It's a real thing, right? And whether it's supply management, quality assurance, accounting, the contracts that are built into crypto.
And you gave me an example of that yesterday that I thought was fascinating, and that applies to real estate, for example. Do you remember how you said that if you have, let's say, two partners on a real estate or multiple partners on a real estate deal, and cash flow has to be paid out to all of them? In my understanding, with if you're dealing in Bitcoin, you could have an automatic distribution that happens. It's one of these, what you call a smart contract, where it would just automate so many things, and it could be done. Now, again, this could be a topic for another call, and as to how this will all work, but the possibilities are almost endless.
What the blockchain does is basically take the third party out of the equation, right?
Right.
As men spread further and further apart, they needed more assurance the person they were trading with was legit. So we put banks and institutions between us, right? If what the woman earlier said in the video clip was that if that assurity and that sense of trust was removed by the third party because the very nature of the way that we transacted was all the trust that we needed, then we can take trust out of the equation, and smart contracts, we can start to give that smart contract almost more responsibility, to kind of get things done. And it's, it really has the potential, and smart contracts doing things automatically on the blockchain as you would have them done is one of the things that's going to change the world in almost every aspect of how we operate in the world, right?
Again, like I'm sure there's more to be dived into there, but in the interest of time, we'll just move along for now.
The SEC is involved in crypto. This is an article from a year ago, 2019. The company that owns the New York Stock Exchange has launched a crypto exchange. That's an article from 2 years ago in 2018. There's currently 19, probably more countries that are researching and issuing digital currencies that will stand alone. That's a big deal. It's going to happen. There's an institution, Grayscale, that is crypto investing, that's buying $30 million of Bitcoin a week. So real things are happening. And well,
how old, do you know how old that article? So that's actually May of 2020 that's been happening. So, okay. So in other words, there's big money moving into Bitcoin and maybe other cryptocurrencies. I'm going to ask you about that.
Exactly. Well, this is an
big money
here where the Ivy League schools from 35 billion, Harvard 22 billion, MIT 13 billion. These are large sums of money that these schools are putting into crypto. And they're not putting that into crypto because it's a questionable direction that we're going in. When I said before that how many trillions of dollars that we're putting into the current money system, and that Bitcoin is designed not to shrink, but to grow in value. You know, you don't want to be in cash when there's Bitcoin. Now, this is a slide. Imagine the money in your wallet you've got back when we had $2 bills, or it could be a toonie, a $5 bill, a $10 bill. In the world of crypto, like I said before, there's thousands of cryptos. But imagine in the currency as we know it, imagine if the $5 bill could do something the $10 bill couldn't do.
I don't know if I understand that question.
Financially, what if the $5 bill financially,
I see. Maybe it had some extra features that, you know, get me special access somewhere. I don't know.
Right? And then even the loonie maybe does something a little different itself, right? That's what I say that because that's how these different cryptocurrencies have been designed. Some have really tiny blockchains and they're meant for speed, and that's the most important thing about them, how fast they are. Some, if you look at all these people, and then back to the $5 bill, forget about who's printed on the $5 bill. What if you knew the guy who invented the $5 bill?
Okay, so are these creators of various other cryptocurrencies, altcoins?
These are all creators of cryptocurrencies.
Do you want to tell us who they are, just out of curiosity?
The guy in the top left with the beard is Zuko. He's created a coin called Zcash. Okay. Privacy coin. Guy in the center, Charlie Lee, invented Litecoin, which is a pretty direct derivative of Bitcoin. People describe Bitcoin as the gold. Litecoin is the silver. The guy with the funny unicorn shirt, his name is Vitalik Buterin, and he designed Ethereum. And that's the smart contract token. And it's also the blockchain that a lot of other cryptos are built on. If you circle beside him to the fellow with the beard, that's David Schwartz. He was instrumental in designing XRP, which is a coin that works as a remittance coin between banks. The guy that's just his head there against white, that's Dan Larimer, and he designed amongst other things which are very fast cryptos, he designed a site called Steemit, which is social media. Yeah. Your likes, pays you for your views. And Steemit has had its ups and downs, but Steemit is definitely worth investigating. And then there's Jared Tate, who designed Digibyte. So we're early enough in this ecosystem that each of these different projects has a Telegram group. A lot of them have Discord channels. They have YouTube channels. They have, in the case of David Schwartz there at the bottom with the long hair, there's an XRP army of hundreds and hundreds of people that make YouTube videos and on and on and on. So there are lots of interesting dynamics that go on in the crypto space with all these different currencies. And it's, we're still at the very beginning. And
I get that.
I talked blockchain, but once you're in the space, there's a lot to know and there's a lot to see.
That being said, I also recognize that it can be overwhelming, especially when you're talking about not just Bitcoin, but now all these other cryptocurrencies. I know one of my questions for you was if there are any resources you'd recommend for people that you like to follow. But you have a slide here about, where to actually go and buy some cryptocurrencies if I want to. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and did I just move it? Yeah. So where can crypto be purchased? There's.
Oh, it's 5:10 already. Okay, we'll wrap it up. Okay.
Well, crypto can be purchased on exchange if we want to divulge our own information about ourselves. KYC and AML are know your customer and anti-money laundering, right? So if you're going to join up to an exchange, you may have to end up uploading a picture of yourself like I have on the screen.
Yeah, that's what Jerry used to look like, guys, when I met him.
That also could have been at 3 in the morning, right? The thing about crypto is it never sleeps. You can buy and sell crypto 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's not like the stock exchange. Yeah. So that could have been at 3 in the morning, who knows? But yeah, so if you want to satisfy the know your customer requirements or the anti-money laundering requirements at these exchanges, you have to upload pictures of your passport in a selfie. You have to sometimes give a proof of address, all that kind of thing. But what you get by joining a recognized exchange is you get the ability to link that exchange directly to your bank account, right? So just like you would pay a hydro bill, you would upload $1,000 to Coinberry, to your Coinberry account, right?
Okay.
So whether it's BitBuy, Coinberry, or Coinfield, these are just 3 Canadian exchanges.
Okay.
You can go to, you can join the exchange. You can, and once you join, you need to, verify yourself, get verification of who you are, and that's what the Know Your Customer is all about, right? You can also go to institutions. And again, if you're comfortable giving up your information, Fidelity Assets, I think, has $6 or $7 trillion under management. That's a lot.
Who would have known that, right? So they're already such a big player in this field, and they're one of the top investment firms. So they're.
Yeah, and Grayscale, we saw earlier, is currently buying, as of May, $30 million of Bitcoin a week. So they're getting ready. They're getting ready for institutions and the general public to have the ability to buy these assets. When I got into crypto 3 years ago, it was not as easy to buy as it is today. Not by any stretch.
Okay.
If you don't want to give a lot of information, and there are entities that may not require anti-money laundering and KYC. This Bitcoin.com local up here is a site where you can just use a credit card, get your Bitcoin Cash, then convert it to another cryptocurrency. You could buy Bitcoin with your Bitcoin Cash. You could do some kind of swap situation, but they don't require you to go through the know your customer information that you have to go through. All these little ATM machines, we've all seen these machines in the variety of stores that we go into.
Chinatown.
Well, not just Chinatown. If you go in a card store, these machines are out there, and they're not out there because nobody's using them.
That's amazing. Okay.
Go back to that market cycle chart in your head. We're at the low part of the cycle again, right? So this is when what people get mixed up is when they see red in the chart, that's when they're supposed to buy, right? When they say green, so right now we're at the end of the cycle. Prices are low, people are buying. Here's why to buy crypto. So you can take crypto versus any asset class. Don't skip down to the pizza yet.
Okay, all right.
Look at 2017. Ethereum price in 2017 began at $7. It ended at $750. The price of one Ethereum. Ethereum is the #2 cryptocurrency under Bitcoin, right?
Okay.
So Ethereum gained 10,000% in 2017.
What
really
justifies this? Like, would you say it's just all the qualities it brings to the marketplace?
It was a lot of speculation. It was also the end of that market cycle. It's called the blow up off top. There's a lot. Go back to the psychology of that cycle, and you can see, because this is an asset. It works for Bitcoin. It works for silver. It works for Tesla stock. All of those emotions, all that psychology of people buying and selling, drives the price, right? A lot of it in 2017 was built on speculation, and I think the masses, people out in the world probably didn't hear about it even until it caught up to $15,000 or $18,000, right? But right now, Bitcoin's almost around 10,000. It's around $9,000, but it's
Bitcoin or Ethereum? No, Bitcoin.
Bitcoin's around $9,000. Ethereum has gone down to, I think, $230, $240, somewhere around there. But if you look at this last point, if you invested $1,000 in Ethereum in 2017, You're coming out with $100,000 at the end of that, right?
Yeah, so I mean, it's insane that the type of returns people can get in this medium are, you know, would surpass almost anything else that we can think of. But with that said, that's why people say, well, but like, you know, that's just speculation. That's just speculation. That's where maybe you don't want to put all your eggs in one crypto. And what would you say to that, Jerry, when people say, well, you know, this is very speculative? First of all, I think you've already answered that to a great extent by showing just how much the enormous amounts of institutional money that's going into Bitcoin, and I imagine other cryptos.
And that institutional money has not been reflected in a major price rise yet. When we looked at when we looked at the chart and all those prices were going straight up, that's without institutional money. That's people.
Wow.
That's people off the street.
Do you say that because it's too recent? Like those purchases were literally done in the past few months, or?
Well, or the past couple of years. When we look at the history of Bitcoin, and we look at where's my internet? Is it this one? No.
Thanks everyone for hanging in. I know we're going a bit over the usual cutoff time of 5 p.m., but we're just about to wrap it up. I had some questions for Jerry that I think many of you may have on your mind. So and then we'll go to your questions as well.
This is that history of.
You're going to share your screen again, Jerry, because all I see right now is just a blank screen that says Zoom.
Okay.
You're gonna have to go to new share.
Yep. Here we go.
You're gonna new share and then select okay. Yeah.
Are you on the chart now?
Yeah, I'm able to see the chart. Yeah, the Bitcoin chart. Yeah.
Okay. Now, this chart, if we look at this chart, look how little of the chart, whoops, look how little of the chart is actually expressed in any kind of rising price, right? It's just so.
How do you mean? Sorry, because there's been ups and downs. So what do you mean, how little?
Well, there is ups and downs, but this chart represents from 2015
okay.
to basically present, right?
Okay.
And this chart here is from, you know, September 17 to December 17, right?
Okay.
And Bitcoin goes from $3,400 like up to almost $20,000, right?
Yeah.
But if it happens in such a very short period of time, then it's 2 years of going down.
Yeah.
Right? Then from early March to July, it goes up again like crazy.
I see what you mean. Yeah. Okay.
So the volatility of, you know, the volatility of Bitcoin is very quick, right? It happens very quick. And
okay.
You want to be there to capture that.
I see. I see. You can blink and miss it almost. I see what you mean. Got it. Okay.
You can blink and miss it.
Yeah.
So,
and we're on the verge of that sort of scenario happening.
We're either in the best buying time. It's going to be in the next couple of weeks, or it was in the last couple of weeks, right? Like now is the time.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you. Okay. Okay, Jerry.
Bitcoin Pizza Day.
What's that all about? Sorry, go ahead.
This email kind of explains it, where it's the first transaction where Bitcoin was used to purchase something in the wild.
Oh.
So this person, you know, put an offer out there. I'll pay 10,000 Bitcoin for a couple of pizzas. Now, remember those first 4 years in the history of Bitcoin where 10 million Bitcoin were created?
That is so crazy.
Every 10 minutes, 50 Bitcoin is spitting out. This guy could have been mining Bitcoin on his personal computer, right?
Yeah.
He offered, because Bitcoin had no value then, that 10,000, who knows what 10,000 Bitcoin was. So he offered to pay 10,000 Bitcoin and he got 2 pizzas, right? So the thing is, in today's value, those 2 pizzas, this guy in today's value paid $92 million for those 2 pizzas, right? Now
It's
this was in
unthinkable.
This was in 2010. This is only 10 years later.
10 years ago.
So
10 years ago. Yeah.
in the next 10 years, what's Bitcoin, and remember those 8 decimal places too,
Yeah.
right? What's
Yeah.
Bitcoin, is it going to be worth 10 million for a Bitcoin? I don't know. But, so every...
Do you know if anybody took him up on the offer?
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, that's why that's like this date is May 18th. On May 22nd, I think maybe that's when the transaction was. But so that spending that is commemorated like it's a Bitcoin pizza day, right? So
wow,
it's a pretty interesting thing. I think.
Yeah. Okay.
So $92 million for 2 pizzas. That's the potential, and that's why you want to be in crypto.
Got it. Among many other reasons. But okay. Well, I mean, are we gonna have time? I know we're already over time. I had sent you some questions. So we already addressed the first question. I asked if there are any stores that you're aware of that accept cryptocurrencies as a form of payment.
There are, you can and there's a lot online. Amazon Web Services, is a big crypto supporter.
Okay.
There's through MoneyGram, you can send crypto through MoneyGram now.
Really?
But I wouldn't be as worried about it being able to transact in it as I just worry about owning some. Right?
Okay, for now, the first step is to get your hands on some.
First step.
Okay, because
but
we
there
see.
Are places to use it.
Sorry.
But there certainly are places that you can spend it and use it.
Okay. Sources of information for people to further educate themselves. I mean, I'm sure you have a ton of those.
Like I steer people away from Google, but I would use DuckDuckGo.
Yeah.
I would ask them any question that I had about crypto, and what I look for when I'm trying to understand concepts are the simple kind of cartoon videos,
Okay.
Explain it like I'm 5, that's how I get stuff. And there's a lot of those videos online about what crypto is, what blockchain is, but understand that what crypto is in effect is you becoming your own bank. You have the ability to send and receive money without a financial institution backing you. And that's never happened before, right? So what crypto addresses is the billions of people in the world that are unbanked. There are people through India and Africa that just don't have enough money to pay banking fees, let alone have a bank.
Wow.
But with crypto, everybody's got a cell phone. They can now send and receive, pay for things, order things. There are markets in Africa where people get up in the morning and they get their crypto in and they're sending, receiving crypto. They don't have bank accounts, but they're paying for goods. They're going to pick the goods up. They're selling the goods.
That's fascinating.
They're working off their phones. Crypto as
so that's already happening, Jerry, as far as you know?
That's happening really big in Africa. Crypto is because it's needed more there. Our money hasn't imploded yet.
Wow.
This is fascinating. Crypto saved a lot of people in Venezuela too.
I heard that the Venezuela government was accepting Bitcoin as a form of payment.
There are states in the US that you can pay your taxes in crypto right now.
Wow. Okay. Maybe we'll address some of these questions on our next call, Jerry. I still think it would be valuable for us to have a follow-up call where you take people through the basic process of purchasing, and maybe where we can address some of these follow-up questions and maybe talk about some of the other coins that are out there. I mean, I think we just literally broke the ice when it comes to this topic, but I think you did an amazing job of really explaining what the opportunity is. showing that this is not just a fad, that this is really where the world is going big time, and you don't want to be left behind. I think we have an opportunity, even as individuals, to jump in while we still can, while it's still affordable to do so, and relatively, and as you're saying, it's actually become easier than ever to buy cryptos versus how it was for you when you got started, right?
There are a lot more options now, for sure.
Okay, so and Jerry, even though you've at least tentatively agreed to come back, okay, and sort of handhold us through, hey, this is how I use an exchange or whatever it is, some of the more practical aspects of this world. I know you've also said that for people who need more hand-holding, you're willing to make yourself available on a consulting basis at what I think people will feel are very reasonable rates. And I don't want to say anything, but maybe you could show everybody like your contact information. And again, this is something that Jerry has agreed to do for all of you guys, my viewers. He's not been doing this professionally, but as you can see, he's somebody that knows what he's talking about when it comes to this world. He's somebody that's spent a lot of time educating himself, and wants to help others get ahead and get started with cryptos.
Crypto is confusing, and if I can help, then I will. You know,
thank you.
I've done a lot of talking. I've gone on a lot of tangents here, and I hope I haven't been too confusing. And I know I'm the guy where people say, "Hey, Jerry's coming. He's going to talk about crypto. Let's get it."
Yep, literally.
Yeah, but the thing is, I do find it fascinating. Crypto is not on the news. The major portion of our money supply is not on the news. The fact that Trump's Fed choice is pro-gold standard, pro-crypto is not on the news. The fact that, you know, that so many central banks are considering printing digital currencies is not on the news.
Well, those of us who are following alternative news are getting to learn about these things, but you're absolutely right. The general public this is completely kept in the dark about all of this that's been happening. Like if you hadn't told me the pension funds, the universities, the endowment funds, like huge amounts of money pouring into cryptos. Like,
right, and it's pouring in from every single direction. What I didn't show you or get examples of is how many banks are partnering to perform, you know, SWIFT. I don't know how much wiring of money that you've done, but SWIFT is terribly inefficient.
It takes days. It could take, like if you have to wire money internationally, so the current system, it could take multiple days, as far as I understand.
Yeah, it was designed basically before the computer, before the internet.
Wow.
There are cryptos that have designed remittance paradigms and where they completely replace SWIFT, and you know, we'll see what happens in the near future. But XRP, for example, is a crypto that is an intermediary crypto. So if I was to send money to Great Britain, I would, on the Canadian side, use my Canadian dollars. I would buy $1,000 worth of XRP. XRP, unlike money, can be sent digitally over the internet. I can't send money digitally over the internet. I can only send crypto, right?
Okay.
So if I send money, it has to go through SWIFT and it takes all those days. But I can send XRP in 3 seconds.
We're talking about massive amounts of money. We're not, I mean, everybody's, yeah, you can do an Interact transfer. That's almost like they're priming us for that, but it's not the same thing because you're still going through the bank. You explained that to me. And there's a cap. I mean, there's a small cap, I think 3,000 per transaction.
You're still not sending value. You're sending,
yeah, I understand.
You're sending an order for your bank to do some ledger moving, right?
Got it.
You're not, when you do an e-transfer, you're doing accounting at your bank. You're not really sending value. They can get it, but they're still using their bank to go through their bank. And like I said, there are limits You know, the bank says what you can or can't do with your own money, where it's just not the case
with cryptos.
With crypto. So whether it's $10,000 or 1,000, I buy the XRP in Canada. I send the XRP to the UK. It takes 3 seconds to get there, and on the other end, it automatically buys the English pound with the same denomination that I bought it with. So the exchange happens, the money happens, they have the money in the bank account, they have it in their local currency, everything's done. And Swift just can't do that.
Yeah, and she also explained to me that with the existing systems, like with Swift, for example, Swift is almost a misnomer at this point in time. But the fact that it takes potentially multiple days for a transfer to happen, you're now looking at currency risk, you know, and market risk, and the value. You know, my Canadian dollar is worth something today relative to another currency, but now by the time that person gets the money, if there's been any shift in the currencies market or in the market in general, they may not be getting the same sum that I sent, basically.
Right. And if
the exchange rate will impact things, and that exchange rate changes on a daily basis, if not hourly basis. I don't even know. I think at least daily. I'm not an expert when it comes to currencies.
You're right.
Okay. Yeah, very interesting. So with cryptos, you eliminate that risk because it's almost instant, the transfer.
People talk about crypto having great volatility, but when the transaction takes 3 seconds, it's not really that volatile in 3 seconds, you know?
Right, yeah. Okay, Jerry, now I'm wondering if you can just exit your presentation, because we're gonna wanna minimize the screen. I wanna go back to Facebook and see if there are any questions. I know we've gone quite a bit over time, but I think it's been a very insightful conversation, at least for me. I found it fascinating. Hopefully our audience also appreciated all these insights.
Are you seeing the screen?
What do you know? Yeah, so you minimize that. So now I think what you need to do is let me minimize the screen and go to Facebook and see if there are people are saying, you know, crypto is the future compared to gold. Yes, we haven't had a chance to do that. And funnily enough, guys, for next week, my plan is to have somebody that's going to talk to us about precious metals investing. Yeah. So people are just some comments. Okay, so just some comments. I don't see any questions other than the request if we could compare to gold. I don't know if you want to say anything about that in this last few minutes, Jerry.
Well, if you look at a lot of cryptos right now, I was just mentioning XRP. XRP is down 95% from its all-time high at like $3 and something American. Bitcoin is down like around 50% from its all-time high.
Okay.
A lot of other cryptos are down 80 to 90% from its all-time high. Right now, gold is almost at its all-time high, which was around 1900, right?
Interesting.
So when Ripple takes off and does a couple 100% or 1,000%.
Ripple is one of the cryptos?
XRP. Well, also Ripple is the company that makes XRP, sorry.
Okay.
But you can get a couple 100% increase pretty easily in crypto.
Yeah, it's
where
insane.
The likelihood of gold, you know, and I've watched all the gold bugs too, right? Talking about $5,000 gold, but even then, that's, you know, a 2.5 time increase for where gold's at. Even if gold gets to $2,000, that's a big move for gold. And boy, gold's got to $2,000. You know, it's a couple $100 increase an ounce where it's at now. So how many ounces do you have to hold of gold for a $200 increase to really mean anything to your?
No, so gold, yeah, and again, hopefully, thank you, Jerry. I think hopefully on next week's call we can talk about that. Gold has been seen traditionally as a store of value, as it's a hedge against inflation. It's not where people go to make enormous profits. That's not the idea with gold. I think again, it's hedging your bets, and again, I think we're going to get into that more on next week's call when I have our precious metals investing expert on. But that was a good point you made, that like the kind of returns you could see by investing in cryptos, where it's order of magnitude greater versus what you could see by putting your money in precious metals.
Bitcoin is described as digital gold, right?
Okay, cool.
Not store of value. That whole paradigm of limited capped amount, deflation built in with the halving, and it's designed as a store of value, not to lose its value, just like gold, right?
I got it. Beautiful, amazing. Okay, Jerry, let's wrap it up. We've gone on for way longer than I thought, but thank you so much for all your insights, and I do look forward to having you back again soon. I think this is a topic a lot of people like to know about. So,
Thanks.
okay, have a great rest of the week. I think you're gonna have to end the meeting for us because you became the host.
Okay. Well, thanks. It was really interesting. I hope it wasn't too confusing. Like there was a lot of stuff.
I don't think so. I think we kept it on track, and it was great.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you. We'll talk to you soon.
My pleasure. Take care. Bye for now. You have to end the meeting.